Hey everyone, it's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria and welcome to today's video. Today's going to be kind of like a little chit chat and I'm going to answer a few questions, but I just got off my bike. It's an absolutely gorgeous day out. I was out for about an hour. It's like 45 degrees, 15-mile-an-hour wind from the west. But yeah, I had a nice hilly ride. Oh, it just feels so good to get out. And I've really adjusted myself to winter riding because I've been doing it all winter. And we've had a pretty mild winter. Usually we have a lot more snow, but who knows? We've just had some really great days and I've been getting out and it actually feels warmer because I'm used to riding in like 30-degree weather. So it feels good to get out and get in longer rides. It's honestly my favorite form of exercise. I love leisure riding. I love hill riding. I'm not doing so much intense riding now because through the winter I try to just maintain my fitness level by doing hills and stuff, because I do find that my bike fitness transforms pretty rapidly if I'm not out doing hills. If I take a break and I'm just doing stationary riding, or I go on vacation, and typically I go to Florida and I do a lot of like flat riding. If I come back and do hills, it is a little bit harder. You lose that fitness quickly, but you gain it back quickly the more you ride hills. And I just have rolling hills in my neighborhood. I don't live in a mountainous area, just a hilly area. And I find it to be quite sufficient at maintaining my aesthetic results, my fitness results, having a high VO2 max. It complements my running really well. I've been consistently running like a 9:30 mile pace for my runs every week, and I'm not trying to push it. I'm just trying to maintain like a talking level pace. I haven't really been interested in too much intensity lately, just maintaining my fitness and letting my normal routine feel really good, and see and just compare and contrast you know, how I make improvements in my feel good fitness routine, if that makes sense. Okay, enough about that. So if you guys follow me at all on Instagram, I just posted a really good before and after of the beginning of my journey, pretty much, when I went all in on a high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan diet, following a pretty intense period of restriction where I was underweight. I was doing a lot of fasting. I had been chronically calorie restricting and yo-yo dieting for years prior. So when I first came to this lifestyle, I gained like 60 pounds. So the photo I posted, I'll show you guys here. It was when I reached my plateau point and my weight was starting to shift down some. It took 2 years and I look pretty good in that photo. I was doing quite a lot. Well, I was just active. I've always been active. That's one of the questions that I typically get is, should I take a break from fitness when I'm in metabolic recovery? I say do steady state cardio that you can do at a talking pace, 30 minutes, 6 days a week. So that's like a lot of what I was doing was easy stationary cycling, walking, and riding an outdoor bike when, the weather was nice. So, and I've always kept up a yoga practice as well. So you can take it easy. Fitness doesn't have to be very challenging all the time. You'll go through periods where you have a lot of energy and you can really punch it, and then you'll go through periods where you just want to maintain what you have, even though you're continuing to build your VO2 max just by being consistent with aerobic training. And that really helps to aid in convincing your body to become a fat burner versus a fat storer. At the beginning, it is helpful to just maintain muscle mass and cardiovascular fitness, which aids health in general. But even if your body is stuck in fat storage mode because you are recovering from restriction and you're basically having like survival reserves is what I call it. Um, you can still be like rowing your boat in the right direction in terms of just maintaining or building some kind of cardio base so that when your body gets used to the calorie abundance, the consistent carbohydrate calorie sufficiency, daily sufficiency, every day you're eating enough carbohydrate calories to satiate you, but also to promote metabolic healing so that your body can become a fat burner versus a fat storer. So when we come to a high carb, low fat, plant-based, vegan, unlimited calorie diet from restriction, our body is programmed for fat storage regardless of what we're eating. When we eat high carb, low fat, it caps our weight gain so we don't become obese, or we don't gain an excessive amount of weight. We're going to gain weight relative to our genetics, relative to our initial starting weight. For me, it looked like a BMI of like 24.9. I was right at that cutoff of like normal weight to overweight. You may be in the overweight category. If you were pretty heavy when you started, you may end up slightly in the obese category. It all depends on where you come from, but you will come down. But I want to put the timeline into perspective because I feel like my case was I was never like clinically anorexic where I needed to be admitted to a hospital, but I did spend a lot of time under eating, yo-yo dieting, fasting, being underweight. So I programmed my body for fat storage so that when I started eating as much as I wanted, the weight piled on and it stayed on, and everybody was like, what happened to you? You know, you've always been a lean bean, like what happened? And basically I was recovering from the metabolic damage I had created. So fast forward to now, from that time, 2 years into my all-in journey to now, the timeline is not completely linear in terms of like my weight loss. It's been up and down and up and down, and me learning how to master my metabolism and master my appetite, master my satiety cues. And it all has been extremely dependent on eating sufficient amounts of carbohydrate calories every single day. I would say my calorie range over the last 11 years, because I'm coming up on now 11 years of being on this lifestyle, has ranged from about 2,500 calories a day all the way up to 5,000. My current range is about 2,500 to 3,500. I've been tracking my calories lately on Chronometer more, and I'm coming in right around 3,000. Sometimes a little less, like a couple hundred calories less, so maybe 2,700, sometimes more, like 3,300, but I'm within that range. And the significance of that range is that I'm always giving my body enough calories, whether one day I'm eating closer to 2,500 or one day I'm eating closer to 3,500. I've got that 3,000 calorie average that my body knows is coming. So it doesn't need to hold on to fat stores. It doesn't need to hold on to fluid reserves. It is so balanced out now from just being consistent on this lifestyle that I have metabolic efficiency. I have a high metabolism. My body is always now going to have trouble gaining weight on a high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan diet when initially I had no problem gaining 60 pounds. So the difference is not the diet, because I've been eating the same foods, the same macronutrient ratios over the last 11 years. The difference is that my body metabolism shifted from a fat storer to a fat burner. I've had a lot of questions about starch because I cut starches back, not out completely, for the last 2 months. And the significance, though, is that the entire time I was still eating about 3,000 calories worth of carbohydrates coming from fruit every day. So I just recently added rice back in. I started eating it 2 days ago because I just reached this major shift and I'm like, you know what, I can't eat these big vegetable meals anymore. I want rice. So I listened to my body and that's what I did. So like I listen to my body and I eat what it tells me to eat. You know, sometimes I take breaks from starch. It doesn't matter though. The significance here is that whether I'm eating fruit predominantly or fruit plus starch, which my favorite starch is rice, I'm always eating 3,000 calories a day, predominantly from carbohydrates. My macronutrient ratios look like 90% carbohydrates, 5% fat, 5% protein. Actually, my carbs are usually a little higher, and my fat and protein are usually a little bit lower. So I'm maxing out my carbohydrate intake every day, and it comes to about 3,000. Now, am I expecting my body to change a whole lot adding starch back in? No, because it really didn't change at all from taking starch out. My metabolism is so fire right now that my body, the 20 pounds that I lost in the last year, is all because I reached this point where my body's like, dump it, you know? And I also stopped breastfeeding in June and I haven't had babies or anything. So my body's just like, it just sucked up, and I've been really consistent with my fitness, really consistent with my diet, and it just all came together. You know, I'm so satiated from the foods that I eat, fruit, sugar, starch, and vegetables. That's the predominance of my diet. And yeah, it's just, my results are not from whether I'm eating fruit or whether I'm eating starch. My results are from eating a sufficient amount of carbohydrate calories every single day for the last decade and turning my body from a fat storer into a fat burner and never letting my calories dip so that my body wants to store fat. That is the key, is eating enough so you have calorie sufficiency and your body trusts you, and it's like, okay, I don't need to hold on to excess fat stores. That's also why my body's not going underweight, because I'm not restricting a lot. Some trolls right now are accusing me of being too skinny or whatever, which I think is so funny because I went from being, heavy to skinny fat to now I'm too skinny. But my BMI is like between 19 and 20 right now. I'm not underweight. I'm very healthy. All my blood work comes back great. I'm not anemic. My hemoglobin's great. My hematocrit's great. My ferritin level is normal. I just posted some blood work recently on this channel. You can find it. So yeah, I'm just completely healthy because I put the work in. I dedicated myself to this. I trusted the process. Actually, I didn't trust the process. I experimented, and sometimes I trusted it, sometimes I didn't. And that, I think, is why my journey took so long, is that I didn't trust my body. I didn't trust what I was doing. Like, I went all in and then I backed out, and then I went all in again and backed out. So I was kind of yo-yoing through my journey. And then when I added road biking in, I feel like I took things up a notch because my VO2 max had a huge increase. So all these things factor in to create the aesthetic and health goals that you desire. But the most important factor, and this is the one that I teach and really try to drive home in my coaching program when I work with you one-on-one, is that you have to prioritize and be consistent with the carbohydrate calorie sufficiency. That is the most important aspect of this life, of this diet, of this lifestyle. Okay, the last thing that I was recently asked was about High Carb Regenerator. I'm actually planning to do an interview with him soon, and I was kind of confused on the question because it was like, are you going to kind of debate him or debunk him? Actually, Ryan and I have a lot of the same, core beliefs when it comes to nutrition. The difference, though, is that he's still metabolically healing and I am metabolically healed. So when you're watching a person on here and their channel is growing like Ryan's is because he puts out really great content, and you're like, well, why is he still heavy? Or, you know, him and I talk about this sometimes too. Why is he still carrying extra weight? And then after he tells me kind of what's going on, I immediately am like, he's still recovering from metabolic damage. And it can take a long time, and you have to be extremely consistent. You can't be yo-yoing. You have to be consistent and every single day with your carbohydrate calorie intake, with your exercise, and with sleeping enough. And you have to have all of that in place, especially if you're coming from a place of metabolic damage from previous dieting. He's got a history of doing the keto diet. So it takes time for the body to recover from that kind of stuff. And then you're also dealing with genetics, you know. But anyways, that's it for this video. I don't want it to be too long. Leave any comments or questions down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.